Hey, hey, good Monday morning. Happy quarter two kickoff. How is everybody today? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it is already quarter two and we are getting going with creating systems today. That's what we're going to talk about. So I hope you'll stick through because I have a lot of stuff I want to share with you so that you can start building some structure in your business. Hi, I'm Cheryl Texera, and I am a certified project manager, and I am also certified in Scrum. And my mission is to level the playing field for entrepreneurs like you so that you can start implementing some project management practices and the framework of Scrum to increase your productivity, increase efficiency, and actually implement all of your projects. So stick with me because we are looking for organization and structure this month. That's kind of what I'm going for. So I'm just double checking here to make sure I am live. um, I see somebody, a couple of people are on. Okay, good. Great. I can't find my stupid thing in my feed. Here I am. Okay, hi. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Lorena. Good to see you guys. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, building structure in your business. And the reason why I wanted to address this is because I feel like sometimes as entrepreneurs, we think that we can be really like, fast and loose, and we tend to not build in structure because, it's only us, right? It's just me. Why would I build in structure? But when we do build in structure, we start to formalize our processes, and that actually gives us a framework and a structure to lean on when things are getting, kind of hairy, right? We're all busy. We all have, excuse me, we all have tons on our plate and tons of distractions. And by building in some structure into your business, you can start to, take all the think work out of things, and you just do. You get more into a production mode rather than a constantly trying to figure things out mode, right? And it also helps you commit to, one kind of a strategy. When you start formalizing things, you're going to commit to something, and that helps build foundation in your business so that it can start becoming more rock solid, things that people can count on, right? People like structure. We like routine, we like structure, and that gives us something to lean on. So I made this ridiculously stupid PowerPoint, but I wanted to just sort of outline what I mean when I talk about structure, because there's actually several pieces to structure, right? You have we have organizational structure, and then we have things like workflows, we have life cycles, and then we have metrics and things like that. The metrics and data collection, analysis, all that can really help us to start measuring our success. And the more structure we build in, the easier it is for us to start measuring. And then we can compare ourselves to industry standards. We can set goals by industry standards. And that's how we can start identifying where the gaps are in our work so that we can, make the most of our time by, if you have a gap in one particular area, maybe like Facebook ads or something, you've never done them before and you want to do some Facebook ads, well, then now you can start filling that gap. You can start focusing your attention on, I'm going to learn Facebook ads this sprint. That's my goal, right? Or you're going to learn to create better images. That's your goal. Whatever it is that you are trying to fix, it becomes your focal point for that entire sprint. So that's kind of how I do things. And the reason why I do things that way, one is because I'm a good scrummer, and I really do believe in the drive the spike method. I think driving a spike and building at least part of it is what makes you successful in the long run, because it gets your stuff out there and it increases your chances of getting some momentum a little bit faster, actually making some sales and generating revenue for your project, right? Because all of our projects need revenue. And I want you to think about all of your work as projects, right? When you start thinking about things in projects, one, that's a structure item, right? That builds structure. You have a project. With that project, you have a life cycle of some sort that you methodically go through. And as you build out your systems, you can build out a life cycle for projects so that you make sure that you touch all the things that you need to touch every time consistently in your projects, and you don't leave things behind. And so I'm going to just start this little presentation because I want to go through these things. All right, here we go. Okay, so organization. You start first. With organization, right? We're talking about the file management system, right? If you haven't taken my file management system course, it is free for a limited time. And so you might want to take advantage of that. It is the scrumboss.com/FMS for file management system, FMS. So your file management is a great base to start with because immediately it creates structure in your mindset, right? Because now everything is categorized almost like by departments, right? If you took my file management course, you can see that it's almost departmentalized. You have a project folder, which could eventually become your project management office, right? So that is your project management office. You have content creation, which is a production piece of your business. And you have a advertising and marketing, managing your campaigns, right? Advertising and marketing. So you can see how you start to have everything compartmentalized into departments. And when you do that, you can start looking at roles, right? When you have roles, you have different people or different roles for different tasks that have to be done, right? And when you think about things in roles, it's easier for you to start looking at patterns, right? So we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. But okay, so other types of organization would be project management, content management, campaign management, lead management, client management, right? So once you have clients, you have to manage and track them and track their memberships or track their content, whatever it is that they've done, all those different things that you have to track. So my go-to for that type of stuff is through using spreadsheets, using Word documents, using a basic file management structure, right? That's where I really like it because it is I like the traditional of just files and having a good file management system and a good project management system right in your file structure, because using things like Trello and Honeybook or Slack or any of those kinds of things, yes, you can upload files, but you still have to have a starting point for that file, right? It's going to be on your local machine or on Google Docs. Somewhere that document was born, right? You created that document that you needed to upload into one of those systems. And then you have space problems with those kinds of systems as well. So I honestly think that keeping it simple is easier and better for your pocketbook, and just better in terms of being evergreen, right? So you aren't using the latest trending software or any of that kind of stuff. You're just sticking with tried and true. Why buy the dump truck when you can do it with a wheelbarrow, right? So that's my story. So anyway, those kinds of things can be kept in your file management system, your project management, folders, your content management folders, campaign management, lead management, and client management. Okay, and then once you start having those things, then you can start building workflows, right? So the workflows give you that visual representation of the order in which things happen. It also can display decision points so that you have a branch. It's think about basic logic. If, else, right? If somebody makes this decision, then this happens. If else, if they don't make that decision, then what happens? So when we start thinking about if and else, we always create an alternative path for everything that we work on. Think marketing, right? If somebody says no, what's the alternative? What is, what's the next step in your funnel mapping, right? So that's where workflows can really, really help you. Another way workflows can help you is in your onboarding process, right? So especially when you're first getting started, you might forget what your onboarding process is if you don't have a lot of clients all the time, right? If they're not coming in droves where you're repeating that process a zillion times. That's where workflows can really come in to give you that visual representation, showing those decision points, and then helping you map out what exactly you need to do for that particular thing to create something smooth that's happening in a smooth way. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have all of these things right off the bat. It takes time to build all this structure in. But I want you to be thinking about structure, because when you think about how can I build structure with this thing I'm doing, then you start really thinking about efficiency, right? You're really trying to build in efficiency, repeatable processes, and workflows. And that brings me to my next thing is repeatable processes, templates, cheat sheets, checklists, even a desk manual, right? So that's where things like Trello can come in handy for checklists, that kind of thing, or maybe you have it in a Word document in your main file system, but as a working thing, you can put it in Trello so that you have a card that handles that checklist each and every time when you're managing your day-to-day work, right? Another thing that is a great idea is to buy something like a small type of notebook or something, and then just call it your desk manual. And then every single time you come across something that you're stumbling over, you're struggling over, just take a few minutes to write down some basic notes and then tag that thing with one of those little stickies for color or whatever, so that you can find the separation in your notepad, to find that particular item. Those kinds of things can go a long way in helping you build efficiencies and then helping you recognize patterns so that you can start creating repeatable processes. And then that's where templates and cheat sheets can really come in handy, right? So you might not know of a template that you need to build for yourself right now, but if you start looking at all the things that you're doing and you start realizing, geez, I do this thing each and every week. Why not create some sort of a template for that so I don't have to keep reinventing the wheel every single time, right? Okay, so then the next thing is life cycles. And life cycles is one of the big things that, that we really want to work towards, right? We want to work towards having a true life cycle. So if you think about like content creation or creating a product, creating a course, something like that, you want to go through a process, right? So in Scrum, that process is to identify, right? Identify the need and then come up with a solution, build at least part of that solution. That's our drive the spike, right? And then put it out there and start getting feedback, fix the bugs, fix all that stuff, get it stable, then repeat, right? Repeat the process, assess the next need, fill the gap, put it out there, assess the need, right? We just keep going through it over and over and over again. So you can see how, let's say you create a course or some, or even a marketing campaign, right? So you have a workflow for, or a life cycle for marketing campaigns. And so you're always constantly assessing a need, right? So you assess a need, maybe you create a new lead magnet, for your people, you get that thing out there, and then you just keep fine tuning that campaign until it is optimized. And what is optimized? When you meet industry standard, right? So you can look at anything like conversion rates for selling a course, conversion rates for, what is the average conversion rate? Well, the average conversion rate is somewhere around 1% to 5%, something like that. It could be in the 2.5% range for things. So that those are kind of numbers that you can start looking at, and then use those analytics to help keep that cycle going and keep refining and refining and refining. That's called continuous improvement, right? Now, continuous improvement should always happen throughout the life of whatever it is you're doing, right? So a project never actually ends. You're just in a continuous improvement phase. So let's think about that course that you built, right? Well, you probably want to review that course every year or something like that. And it depends on how you built it. Like, my file management system, it's pretty raw, right? I just kind of put it together, put it out there. I want you guys to get it implemented and start working with it. Give me some feedback, and then I'm going to turn it into a formalized course. That's the next step. The next step then would be to put it through a review process. So once a year, I review it, I revise it, I re-release it, or I retire it. One of the two, right? Because you don't want to have stale content out there that is inaccurate. And that gets really difficult to do. But here's the thing. You can start simplifying your whole entire process when you start thinking about continuous improvement. And the reason why is because now you're looking at categories, right? So one of the categories that I really focus on is organization, right? That's been one of my focuses, one of my foci. That's been one of the things I've been focusing on this in the last month or so with file management system, and probably throughout the month of April, I really want to touch on more organization things. And then one of the other things that I did at the beginning of the year was focusing on a strategic plan and setting goals. And, it's one thing to set a goal like, I want to make, 10K months. Well, it's a whole nother animal to figure out how to actually do that, right? And when you have a methodical process, then you can start making sure that you go through those processes to determine what it will take to make that goal, right? Now you start looking at numbers. You start setting goals based on the products that you have. Maybe you create a new product and a new, a dollar amount, right? A different dollar amount. Maybe you create another upsell for something that's in your first funnel, right? And if you're in the process of building your funnel, it can take a long time to build out one complete funnel. So you have, a lead magnet, and then a tripwire, and an upsell, and then a high ticket item or a coaching program or whatever it is that you're going to do in the long run. It takes a long time to build that stuff out, especially if it's just you. So thinking in terms of patterns, thinking in terms of repeatable things that you're doing helps you simplify, so that now you're really looking at categories, right? I need some fresh content in this category. I'm going to go through and look at my current content, do a quick review, determine what needs to be improved, if anything, and then add something fresh to it. Or if you think about if any of you have write a blog or do any type of thing like any type of content creation like that, blog or a newsletter or anything like that, you might find that when you start talking about one topic, it stems all kinds of like sub posts, right? So you could end up with one idea and 6 blog post ideas for that one idea. Well, you can't always get to all of those. So creating some sort of a system where you keep adding value to that particular category by implementing those new ideas at a later date, right? So you can start building in a methodology to your madness so that you can get content out there that's all related, and then start, working that all together. But that's the other thing, is then you start getting all that content out there. How do you track it? How do you know how it works and how it's all tied together and what links to what, right? That's where content mapping might come in place, where you actually map out this blog post and this starts the workflow, right? It's a little mini funnel, right? Every one of your blog posts would be like almost like a mini funnel, where it's driving people into your freebie, or it's driving them to another piece of content to keep warming them up, keep showing value, keep doing all those things, and then getting them to the end result. So when you start thinking in terms of goals, then you start building in processes to help you fill in the gaps to reach that goal, right? That's where life cycles really can come in handy, because it's a repeatable thing. And within that, you may have even some repeatable processes, so that you really start systematizing your whole framework and you have that to depend on. Okay, and then the last thing I have, actually I have two things, but I forgot to make the slide for this one, was, but this one is data collection, and slating out time for creating baseline statistics for yourself, and then watching those statistics and learning about statistics and what they mean for you. Setting some goals is actually something that a lot of us leave, we don't even think about. We don't, we kind of look at them, but we don't really look at them with enough detail so that you can actually see the growth, right? And so we started doing a dashboard, and that's one of the things that you get, that you can get when you join the Scrum Boss Academy, is we teach you either how to build that dashboard, or we do it for you. We create that dashboard for you, so that you can start looking at your baseline stats. And then every year that you're in business, you start seeing the year comparison from last year, and you have statistics that actually matter to you on your dashboard, instead of all the noise, right? Instead of all the noise. So having that structure, creating structure, one of them is your analytics, so that now you start having some processes, and you're really stepping into that leadership role of the CEO of your company, right? You are the CEO, you are the manager of your company, and in order to make good decisions and not emotional squirrel decisions, rabbit hole, squirrel, shiny object, all that stuff, we need data. But we need data that we understand, right? And that we know how to act when we see that data. And that's where having a good CEO dashboard can come in handy. So if you want to know more about that, please DM me or stop by my open house. I'll be having an open house on Wednesday at 7. And that open house is going to get you, if you show up, you'll be registered to complete an entry, to get in, to have a 90-minute phone call with me. Sorry, a 90-minute Zoom meeting with me. It's a work meeting. We're going to dive into whatever project you're working on and help you get that baby fleshed out, so you know exactly what you need to do. If you want to work on your strategic planning or whatever it is, that is a good time to do that. It's 90 minutes. It's a $500 value. And all you got to do is show up to my open house, and then there's a little bit of a questionnaire that I have you fill out, just so I can pre-qualify. I want to make sure you're ready to utilize that 90 minutes to its full extent, right? Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to mention on your systems, on all of these systems, is for you to really start looking at all of the patterns that you're doing, right? So you start getting into a rhythm. You may have things like, Wednesday is my content creation day for the following week, or maybe the first week of the month I do content creation for for the previous or for the next month. So let's say we're in April right now, you're creating content for May during this week, and then next week you start working on, your the marketing part of it, and then the following week you work on more of the social media part, getting things scheduled, that kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? So now you can start getting into a rhythm that works for you, and it's different for everybody, right? It's different for everybody. If working ahead on content is great, if you're working on evergreen content, or even if you're working on seasonal content, you can start working, like this quarter is quarter 2. You might want to be working on quarter 3 or even quarter 4 seasonal content, so that you can get it out there. Like, think about quarter 3, right? Well, if you were doing, let's say, some blog posts for seasonal and some sort of a campaign for the holiday season, getting things out there and scheduled before that season starts is going to help with, your analytics and things like that, right? Think about if you created some content, a blog post or something, get it out there, get it posted on your website, and let Google do its thing, and then you start marketing it in, maybe the month before the season starts. How grocery stores are. Geez, by what, September, they're already putting out Halloween candy. So think about that, right? Working ahead. And then some things you want to be able to respond to what's happening currently. And so those kinds of things you want to leave to be a little bit more, impromptu, right? And meeting the needs of your clients, meeting the urgent needs, some of those things you might need to, do something more on the fly. My lives, I've gotten into a rhythm where I pretty much, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I start thinking about what I'm going to do for the next week. Unless I'm doing some sort of a theme, then I try to work ahead, at least plan things out a little bit. But there's all kinds of ways, and you got to make it work for you, right? You got to and that's why I encourage you to experiment with some things. I gave you a foundation with the file management system, and that's for you to start working with, and then make it work for you, right? If my numbering system or my naming conventions don't work for you, then pick something of your own. But think about why you're choosing that, and think about how you can tell somebody else about your file structure, so that if you did hire somebody, if you have a VA or something, you can all work in the file management system and not screw it up, right? You don't get it all messed up, right? There's a policy in place that says, this is how we run our files. This is what we do. Don't break the rules, right? Keep the rules in place, because it helps us all have more structure to depend on. And it's a common place for all of us to store our work. Okay, so those are the things that I want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about your systems and you're thinking about project management, because with project management, Scrum, everybody seems to think that Scrum can be real loosey-goosey, and it really isn't. It's actually very structured. But the structure allows for flexibility and sustainability, because we work in small segments of time, right? We work by sprints. So the idea is you want to have kind of a milestone spot where you can stop on your project within every sprint, or 2 sprints, something like that. It might take you 2 sprints to get a complete thing. But you always want to have those milestones. So at the end of a sprint, you reached a milestone. Now you're going to do the next component, and then maybe that's the release. Now you're ready to release. Or maybe it takes you 3, whatever you're comfortable with and whatever your time allows, right? So if you're thinking about a funnel, building in like the front end of your funnel, you have to think of all the things that are involved. And that's why having some good project management can start helping you think about all the things that you're going to need to build that front end funnel, right? What is a front end funnel? Well, it's usually some sort of a lead magnet, and then from that lead magnet, they register, so there's an opt-in page. a sales page, right? And then there might be even an upsell, a tripwire, or an upsell at that time. And then from there, there's a welcome series to welcome them in, give them their lead magnet, check on them, make sure that they got their lead magnet, whatever, nurturing sequence comes. And then it just starts building out from there, right? But what you don't want to do is get your lead magnet all done and think, I'm done, yay! Because what happens then, you're like, oh gosh, I didn't even think about how am I going to deliver it? How am I going to get people to opt in to get it? How do I deliver it? How am I going to welcome them? What am I going to say to them? All those things, right? And so a little bit of project management up front and documenting in a project charter or a project plan can go a long way to help make sure you don't forget important pieces, because when you forget important pieces, then your estimates are all off, right? So you thought you were going to finish, at the end of April, and or maybe you thought you were going to finish something at the end of March, and you're still scrambling. Here it is, the 5th of April, and you're still scrambling to get it done, right? Because you didn't brainstorm first and make sure that you got all the pieces. That's where workflows can come in, right? You workflow out what your client experience is going to be. That gives you all the pieces you need to build, and then you build. That's what project planning can do for you. And it doesn't have to be super formal. It doesn't have to be, all wordsmithed and perfect. It just needs to be clear so that you know what it is that you're doing. And it can be in the form of, real casual language. It doesn't have to be formalized. Now, when you start getting into legalities and you're working with, maybe you're outsourcing or something like that, you might want to start wordsmithing a little bit more, because that's how you're going to hold that team accountable for what they promise they're going to deliver, so you get your money's worth, right? That's where those kinds of things come in. So here's the beauty of all this, you guys. So let's say that you're ready, and you are ready to invest, right? You're ready to invest in your business. You're ready to do something, but you don't want to just start loading your bank account with, your hard-earned savings, right? You're thinking, you want to think more in strategies. And so think about the projects that you need to build. Like if you're building the front end of your funnel, if you're building something like that, what is that project? What are the estimates? And what kind of a budget do I need for that thing? Okay, for that project. And when you start thinking in projects, it might actually be easier for you to justify making an investment, right? And you can keep your costs down. It's not just like, well, I'm just going to endlessly put $500 a month in my business so I can keep investing, before I make money or something like that, right? Or maybe it's money that you're earning and you don't want to just nickel and dime it away, right? You're actually converting, you're making sales, you're doing all that. How are you going to best use that money to build out your systems, right? So you start thinking in terms of projects. Now you fund the project and you put a budget on that project. You have a budget of $500 to build this thing out. You have a budget of $5,000. Maybe you want to outsource some things and get invest that money to build out those things properly, so that you have that foundational piece of your business already set, and it would be worth that investment, right? It might not be worth that investment to be putting in $5,000 every month, but to do a project that maybe is a 3-month project, knowing what you're doing. Yeah, it's a concept. If you think about it that way and you start investing now, you can look at the performance of that project. Did it pay off to make that investment? Did it pay off? Did that project help increase our revenue? And by what, right? Did it help increase our email list? Did it help increase, did it pay off? Was there a return on investment? And that's where project management, when you really take a deep dive, every project has a budget And then your goal is to stay within your time frames and within your budget, right? And meet the requirements. So those are the things that you want to do. That's why driving a spike is a really easy way to do things, especially when you're DIYing it, because you can build at least part of it and keep building in the pieces. And then when you get it almost to a place where you're like, okay, now I'm ready to step it up and bring in some professionals to help me, you can do that, right? Because you already know your framework, you've been documenting and taking care of your project, right? And then maybe at some point in a continuous improvement piece, that's when you bring in the professionals, because you're going to be more educated on how you want your thing to work, right? You're not going to be just at the mercy of somebody else telling you what to do. You've sort of done it already. And then you don't have, you know exactly what you need. You can give those requirements to the person that you hire, and then you have an expectation of what is going to be built, and you can hold them accountable, right? You can hold them accountable. So all this stuff is to help communicate and help organize, communicate, and hold accountable, right? That's what your systems do, and that's why it's so important. And it gives you that sense of security, having structure and a framework to lean on when times get bad, right? Rhythm, repeatable processes, all that stuff can really go a long way to help relieve your brain of such hard thinking so that you can stay focused on the magic, right? Stay focused on the magic that's going to make your business the unique business that it is. It's all about you and your brand and who you are and what you bring to the table. All your skills, experience, hard knocks, training, certifications, all that stuff comes to the table, not just one thing, right? Not just one thing. It's everything, right? It's everything. And I know that seems so obvious, right? But it really isn't. I mean, like, I didn't start like applying all the things I knew from IT into my business until just a couple of years ago, right? And then I was like, what the heck? Why am I not teaching this to everyone? Because this is what makes my business so much easier to run, right? It makes it easier to run when you have structure. All right, so thank you very much for coming, everybody. I hope you got some good concepts out of this so that you can start really thinking in terms of systems. Again, I'm having an open house on Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Come get registered so that you can be eligible to win the $500 90-minute session with me. We can talk about your business, maybe book an appointment so that we can do a one-on-one and talk about how we can help you in the Scrum Boss Academy with all of our different offers. We can create a custom package for you and make the magic happen for you, starting with the foundation of systems, right? Unsexy, uncool, and it doesn't have all the, the flash, but it is that solid foundation for you to build whatever it is that you want to build and scale it to whatever it is that you want to scale, because you have a solid foundation in place that you can depend on year after year after year after year. All right, you guys, I hope you have a great week. It was a beautiful weekend. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. I know I got a little bit of sun, did a bunch of hiking, and it was great. It was a great weekend, beautiful Easter weekend. I hope you guys had one too. All right, so be sure to come to my open house. You'll see the link. If you can't find the link to the Zoom room, just DM me. I will send all that to you, no problem. And check your emails, because I'm sending emails out as well about my open house. So I hope you'll come. I'd love to see you, love to talk about your business, and have a great week. All right. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye. See you in the comments.